In the different stages of the human person, youth is often a confusing time. On the one hand, young people are attracted by heroes, filled with idealism and a desire to give themselves to a cause bigger than themselves. And on the other hand, young people are very inward-looking, concerned about how they look, how they are doing in front of others, how they are feeling. Happiness is not found in looking only at oneself, in thinking only about oneself and how one is feeling or how one looks. The famous peace prayer that's attributed to St. Francis of Assisi says that it is in giving that we receive. We could add, it's in going out of ourselves that we find ourselves. This is what another Francis, Pope Francis, has been saying. Speaking to the cardinals before the papal election, Cardinal Bergoglio, now Pope Francis, gave a brief speech, and afterwards, the Cardinal of Havana, Cuba, asked for his notes. He is quoted as saying, "When the Church does not come out of itself to evangelize, it becomes self-referential and then gets sick. There are two images of the Church, the evangelizing Church or the worldly Church, living in itself, of itself, for itself." End quote. Later, in his first general audience on the Wednesday of Holy Week, Pope Francis again called the Church and each one of us to go out of ourselves. He said, quote, "Following and accompanying Christ, staying with him, demands coming out of ourselves, requires us to be outgoing. To come out of ourselves, out of a dreary way of living faith that has become a habit, out of the temptation to withdraw into our own plans which end by shutting out God's creative action. God came out of himself to come among us. He pitched his tent among us to bring to us his mercy that saves and gives hope. Nor must we be satisfied with staying in the pen of the 99 sheep. If we want to follow him and to remain with him, we too must go out with him to seek the lost sheep, the one that has strayed the furthest. Be sure to remember, coming out of ourselves just as God came out of himself in Jesus, and Jesus came out of himself for all of us." Someone might say to me, "Father, I don't have time. I have so many things to do. It's difficult. What can I do with my feebleness and my sins, with so many things?" We are often satisfied with a few prayers, with a distracted and sporadic participation in Sunday Mass, with a few charitable acts, but we do not have the courage to come out to bring Christ to others. End quote. As Providence would have it, the theme of World Youth Day, which will be celebrated in Brazil July 23rd to the 28th, is from the end of Matthew's Gospel, where Jesus says to the apostles and to us, Go and make disciples of all nations." Thus, Pope Francis' general prayer intention this month is that World Youth Day may encourage all young Christians to become disciples and missionaries of the gospel. We pray for that now as we listen to Pope Francis' closing remarks last Holy Week. Holy Week is a time of grace which the Lord gives us to open the doors of our heart, of our life, of our parishes, and to come out in order to meet others, to make ourselves close, to bring them the light and joy of our faith, to come out always, and to do so with God's love and tenderness, with respect and with patience, knowing that God takes our hands, our feet, our heart, and guides them, and makes all our actions fruitful.